Hi, I'm Simon Canton, and in this video I'd like to talk about being the father of teenagers. So I have twin sons, Matthew and Daniel, who are now 16, and they're just about to go off to, in Norway it's called Videregående, it's kind of like trade school. Matthew's going to be an electrician slash electrical engineer, and Daniel's going into the services industry. So in Norway's a bit strange compared to Ireland. Ireland, you keep going in general education until you're 18. 18 or 19. And in Norway, when you're 15 or 16, you're going off to essentially start following your vocation in general terms. Like the course that Matthew's doing could then go towards IT engineering, electronic engineering, electrical engineering, being an electrician, which is kind of what he's focused on at the moment, although it might change. And Daniel's services industry could also go towards IT and stuff like that. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about in this video. I wanted to talk about being a father of teenagers versus being a father of younger children. Because I also have a son, Alex, who's 3. So we had... so our third kid, we thought we were pretty much done, or at least my wife was pretty much done with kids. When the boys were born, she wanted 2 kids, and we had 2 kids in one go. And I really enjoy being a father. Like I really do like being a father. So I was kind of always thinking that another kid wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. It's kind of selfish in terms of like the world population is too high and we're having 3 kids, which isn't exactly eco-friendly, but I just love being a father. So there's a very big difference between being Alex's father and being Matthew and Daniel's father at the moment. Obviously, when Matthew and Daniel were younger, it's the same situation, but now it's very different. Teenagers are essentially their own people. They're still just, they're on the verge of being adults. Obviously, they're not adults yet. They don't have the same maturity or responsibilities as being an adult. But they are essentially like mini adults then, just living in your house. Whereas children are completely dependent on you, and for instance, Alex can't be left on his own. We can't just go off into town or something. Whereas Matthew and Daniel can be left alone. They recently just went off to Ireland on a plane on their own. They're 16, so they can manage perfectly fine on their own. They could be left here, not that we have, but they could be left here for days without us being here. They're perfectly capable of taking care of themselves. So it's a very different experience being a father of teenagers, because being a father of a child is a very close bond, because you're around them the whole time they're awake. The only time you're not around them is when they're sleeping. That may change slightly now because Alex is about to start kindergarten, but up until now, every free moment that I'm at home, I'm in the same room as Alex. Whereas teenagers, my teenage sons at least, I see for meal times and when I'm telling them to do their chores. And that's pretty much it. The rest of the time they are up in their room or they go out with their friends, and they're not really going to hang out with dad for any length of time. We have our Friday night movie night where we watch movies together, but even that, like, Daniel's kind of taken to ignoring that now and not turning up because he just doesn't want to spend time with his boring father, which is understandable. It's the same thing that I did when I was a teenager. It's just a part of growing up, and both from the parent side and from the child side, they're my sons are no longer children. They're essentially their own individual adults who just haven't moved out of the house and gained their independence yet. They don't have the skills yet to do that, but they're not far off it. In plenty of countries, 16-year-olds would be living on their own, and it'd be quite strange for them to be living with their parents, or even 100 years in the past, or before. So it's a very different relationship I have with my 3-year-old than I have with my teenagers. That it's a much closer bond with my 3-year-old son. It's difficult to say. Obviously, I love all my children, but the forgive, this might come across as a little creepy. That's a great thing to say before you're talking about children, but like, the love that you have for a very small child is kind of like the first blush of a romantic relationship, that it's full of deep, intense emotions. Like, it's a very, very strong emotional bond. Whereas the love that you have for teenage children is like the love I have for my wife, for example. Me and myself and my wife have been together for 18 years now, and there's not a deep, lusty passion there anymore. Maybe this sounds bad for my wife. Hopefully not, but I think people will understand. But there's a very deep bond between us, but it's not the same level of emotional intensity that I would. So the level emotion, obviously, it's a very different concept, but the level of familial love that I have for my 3-year-old is a very strong connection, whereas a strong close connection, whereas the love that I have for my teenage sons is a strong distant connection. It's very difficult to put into words, actually, because everyone knows in romantic relationships that you have the initial lust phase, spark phase, for the first year maybe, and then after that it fades, and then you've got the kind of friendship slash companionship phase of a relationship. Like, the lust doesn't last forever, the intensity doesn't last forever, which is what some people don't realize early in their lives. They don't realize that that's just a spark. That spark then has to have something under it, otherwise it's never going to last. So maybe I'm just going off in a tangent here, but I'm trying to explain that the feeling of the love that I have for my teenage sons is a love that's kind of got a distance to it. Obviously, I'd do anything for them, but it's not the same kind of close bond that I have with my younger son. Like, we're not spending much time together, me and my teenage sons, so there's not like this intensity to the emotion. Anyway, hopefully there was some sense in there. I may have just completely blathered or been creepy for 10 or 15 minutes. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.